We are recording, Mike. Yeah, no, whatever, man. Um, like I don't edit, so I generally it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
Mike, like I kind of we talked off recording on Zoom. You kicked off the series, the interview series, with yourself in person at Arlene's Grocery,
Mm.
in a totally different climate. Of course, how could we predict the clusterfuck that was the pandemic and how it would affect the entertainment industry in all aspects. So I'm curious, how have you really adapted to, this crazy climate we're in now?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hilarious if I'm like, wait, what? I just awoke
What?
from a medically induced coma. I had a tough March. What happened?
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh.
um, I mean, I think like a lot of comics, or at least ones that are making money right now, I switched over to primarily digital. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been going out on the road as much as humanly possible, but it's been difficult because a lot of the bigger acts that are, you know, typically selling out theaters or even bigger, and definitely even just selling out comedy clubs, they're now all downgrading their touring schedule. So they've kind of kicked people on my level who are just starting to sell a little bit. And, I was headlining regularly around the country for years. And so I've been having to kind of find a few different spots a little more independently. And then, even in some cases, create my own venue
Hmm.
outdoors, which it's kind of been fun. Part of it has been fun. Part of it has been disheartening. And, but it's just something new, right? It's like I could sit back and focus on how everything is really difficult and depressing and overstimulating, or I could just kind of bury my head in my work and my son, not inside of my son, but bury it in in my love of my son. Then at least I'm spending my time you know resourcefully. I don't know the word, but I'm using it wisely as opposed to wallowing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've seen some, original. I hate the word content.
Mhm.
It's just, I look at things as art comparatively to just generic commercial term content.
Right.
But I really think that's where things are going now. Like people have to create their own digital realm and bits and series online, and to get whatever medium they so choose. But I mean, I saw that clip, that mini documentary where you did the drive-through earlier. In
Yeah,
the
yeah.
that I was like, that's totally different realm comparatively to being on stage in the live audience, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Like how that experience? How was that like surreal, and that dynamic of just vehicles comparatively to a live crowd? I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it was surreal and not optimal. Like that's kind of the nicest way to put it. But I also don't want to shit on it because people were coming out.
Yeah,
People that
yeah.
are also in need of entertainment and some sort of release and escape were there, and hopefully they found it. It appeared that they were entertained and enjoying themselves, but from a strictly like comedy perspective, and not counting the things that I'm grateful for, it was tough, man. It's like doing a live Zoom show because they're still disconnected and they're behind their windshield, and
Mm.
the only way you can know that you got any type of response from them is if their car is shaking from them laughing,
Yeah,
or if
yeah.
they click the lights on and off or beep, which throws your entire timing. So I felt like almost a deaf person waking up to their alarm. They have those light up alarms, and
Yeah.
that's how it changes their scenery, and then they wake up. That's kind of how comedy in 2020 was.
Yeah. Was that your only show? Or like, did you do more of those shows after? Like,
I
or
did that. I did drive-in shows just twice. So
yeah, yeah.
I was, part of what this had done for me, and again, people react to it differently, right? And obviously comedians at all levels are experiencing this at the same time. So people that are, in giant quotes below me are handling it differently because they have to. And then people who are in quote unquotes above me have to handle this differently. So I've been grinding and doing, 20 spots a week on average, let's say,
Hmm.
for 12 years, up until this point, 11 to 12 years. So I I am able, and I have a foundation that's been built, I am able to kind of pivot while continuing to keep my stand-up sharp. I've established the base, right? I have a strong foundation with my skill set that I can revisit, and then of course I'll have to kind of get back into shape and resharpen things, and it's a tough process, but I'm able to kind of take a few days off or a week off in between shows without feeling like I'm going to kill myself, which in the beginning and even maybe 4 years ago, I wasn't able to do that. So just for me personally, that shows some growth. And so I wasn't desperate with a lot of the shows that were available, where in the beginning, and for that, I knew for the car show, I knew that would be good content, which is hilarious because I went there specifically with the idea of shooting it in mind. So I was going to do this show, whether or not it was good was inconsequential because the final product was just going to be, the quote unquote documentary.
Yeah.
I then did some park shows, which I quickly decided were not for me because listen, it's fucking homeless community theater, man. I'm like screaming in the middle of Central Park about my balls and jizz, and there's some like 3-year-old with a fucking, with a hula hoop playing 10 feet away. And it's like, they don't deserve to be subjected to this. And I also don't deserve to be put in such a grand situation of failure. And I don't, my self-esteem shouldn't hinge on this. I shouldn't calculate my self-worth based on this shit. It's tough. It was tough for that.
Yeah. So then when did you start hashing out Frank's character and that bit? Because that's spot on, with
yeah. I mean there was no fleshing to be done. That was just that's my surroundings. Those were a couple of my friends. It's my father. It's my father-in-law. There's a lot of people that kind of make up Frank. For those of you who aren't aware, I do. For those of you, all of you, I do a character called Frank Rigatone, and he's based off some of the hardcore gym owners really early in March that were demanding that their gyms open, early in COVID, even while they were receiving, governmental assistance, which now they're not. So I understand their plight right now. I completely get it. And I think everybody has the right to be frustrated. And I don't know the solution, but I think it's bullshit that there's a lot of different rules that are hypocritical of themselves for different industries. So, I don't know if you saw that poor woman in LA that owns her own restaurant that was like, my outdoor dining is now shut down. And 10 feet away, there's a craft services set up for a fucking film set. And it has even less safety precautions. They're allowed to exist. I'm not allowed to make my own living. So it's like that stuff really, it resonates with me. So I want it to be as layered as possible with the Frank character. But early on, a lot of the knee-jerk reactions from my friends who have absolutely no virology background whatsoever or any science background beyond, whatever bio they took in high school. That was my response to it. Instead of becoming the comedian who is tweeting out dead serious proclamations of what truth is and how viruses work, I don't fucking know. I instead decided to kind of aim my guns at everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect though. I mean, if you can make fun of everybody, you don't offend anybody. It's like,
well, weirdly enough, it's like people watch that character and each side thinks I work for them.
Yeah.
So the people that identify with Frank are like, fuck yeah, dude, open up. And then the left that think I'm making fun of that person and not them as well is like, yeah, fuck those idiots, those mouth breathing idiots that need to earn a living. And it's like, shut up, stupid. Your parents pay your rent.
Yeah. Yeah. Either side, it's just like, there's these extremes and we can't, we're so polarized these days. We can't come to a logical agreement on anything.
I know. I'm trying to do the impossible, which is to make nuance sexy. And nobody is interested in that stuff. It's all black and white. It's all, everybody's pushed to the fringe. You have to be a champion for either cause to really pop. And, that's just something I'm unwilling to do. So if that unfortunately leaves me swimming in a sea of mediocrity and never attention, then, I guess so be it. But I'm not willing to, either put on my alt-right cap or my fucking, freshly knitted, gender neutral skirt or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm just not willing.
Well, technically, life's not like that. I mean, like, it's not one or two. It's one. It's not one or the other. It's like everything. There's a medium between left or right. There's life is not just right or wrong.
Right.
There's always this sloppy in between that generally two sides come together in that in between. But now we're at this weird time, man, like 2020. But and earlier, with the is starting in 2016. But um, so how, like, I guess then with all the outside political stuff and the change in, like, from going to venues and doing stand up, how do you continue developing your craft in comedic language, I guess? I guess you create the digital you create the mini series, and you still have your podcast and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, how do you keep things fresh now with a world of oversaturated content? I said it, but everybody's going online, I guess. So how do you differentiate yourself from all the other noise, I guess?
I mean, it's tough. I don't know if I have, to be perfectly honest. It's something that I'm continuing to try to do and figure out a path. I seem to be of the snail mentality, where I'm walking slowly on the floor of the ocean and gathering shit on my back as I progress slowly.
Yeah.
And if that's my path, then so be it. You know what I mean? My intention with comedy was not, it's not initially to be the richest, most famous person on earth, or maybe that was it, like, instantly. But then as I fell in love with it and actually became a historian of comedy and became an actual obsessive about the technical issues and the brain puzzle of putting together a joke, my entire thing isn't towards fame. My thing is towards authenticity and expressing myself as clearly and as best as I possibly can. So I would love fame. I would love money, obviously, right now. But I think for me personally, to do good work is really important to me. It's the only thing. So for me, Frank Rigatone, that stuff, I think it's the funniest shit I've ever done. It doesn't get half the views that some of my other stuff gets. So, whether that's an algorithm thing or something out of my control, or people don't like it, I don't care. I'm just putting out stuff that I really like.
No, I think, Frank, that's gold. That was, I was laughing at it all afternoon, morning, whatever time. I don't know.
it all melts together.
Yeah. And then, can you touch upon, I know this has been like a couple-year process of getting this out. Timing was released this year too, your full feature.
That's right, yeah.
Piece. How was the reception on that too?
I mean, it seems pretty positive. I think it's been moderately limited, but it's actually led to some work, which is, that's kind of all you can hope for out of an independent project like that. But I think it may have opened some people's eyes, especially in the business and other comedians, into my skill set. It's just offering another thing that I think I'm capable of doing. So if whether people agree with that or not is not up to me, but the people that have seen it and watched it, especially my peers, had nothing but really positive things to say, both, about the message we were putting across and my abilities as an actor, which, it's my first thing. It's my first acting job, really. And I was in every fucking scene of an 86-minute movie. So,
No, I think it was great. I checked.
Oh, thanks,
like
man.
I said, when I first noticed when you posted it was live or published on Amazon, I checked it out the second evening, and Mel and I enjoyed it very much.
Oh,
so,
nice. Yeah, I mean, there's been some psychotic Amazon consumers that are like, I saw this had 58 stars and was immediately skeptical. So while watching it, I decided the lead man wasn't attractive nor funny enough to land the lady.
Oh, Jesus.
That's just so funny to take your time to do.
That's true. You know, people who kind of write that probably don't have the lady in general. You know,
No, and also, you know, we're going through a hard time right now. People
yeah.
as a country, so hurt people hurt people. I've received maybe more negative feedback in my entire life during this pandemic.
Mm.
I mean, also positive, but a lot of negative stuff. And you know, you got to chalk it up to the fact that people are losing it a little bit. You know.
Oh, I'm feeling it too, where it's like I want just the ability to go out, you know, go to a show, you know, enjoy, you know, laughter, live audience, or just being around people again, like
Yeah.
without worrying. And you
Yeah.
know, I was so psyched, like January, February, I had my show set up. You're gonna open, you know, I have generally do every year annual photo show and immersive experience with like bands, and I was getting into it was gonna have you in comedy, and it was gonna be great. It was at Littlefields in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, and it was like, oh, this is great. We already have the lineup, we get the venue, everything's like going efficiently. Boom, COVID. And I'm like, oh, I missed that. Put gathering people together and just seeing people, you know, in different, you know, of different like realms come together for,
Right.
you know, art and culture and entertainment. And just you can't emulate that energy online. You know, you can't.
No, you can't. You can't at all. And I think that's why when people are like Zoom is the future of comedy, it's like it's really not. Like, you
Yeah,
know, it's a great placeholder for what we have right now, but in terms of energy exchange and people being in the same place and sharing a moment together, it's just not there's still a little bit of disconnect, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I will say that though, with the majority of shows I've done, both outdoors and the socially distanced indoors ones, it's been a much more gracious audience for the most part. There's certainly, you know, white womening it up with their scrolling through social media in the front fucking row when you're like, you haven't been outside in 5 months and you can't drop your phone for 80
yeah,
minutes. Like, come on. But but for the most part, people are like stoked to be there. They're outside. I mean, I did a show last week on the rooftop of a penthouse on 23rd Street in 30-degree weather.
whoa, yeah,
It's night time in December and people are there. People, you know, they want that sense of community. They
yeah,
want to feel involved and tapped into some sort of social happening. And with that in mind, it's been great. But I mean, like you, dude, January, right? I released my fucking special. February, I think it was February. Yeah, February. I did my first comedy club post special, sold it out, right?
yeah,
Empire up in Maine. It's all these people coming up to me, watched your special, heard you on this podcast, loved it. Boom, 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 all this stuff. Everything that I could possibly want to have hoped generate from the project was starting to roll. And then as soon as that club was over, boom, the shutdown happened. I was performing. Sorry, I'm just going to turn down this monitor because my son's screaming in his
oh,
room.
no worries, yeah.
Yeah, he's probably screaming for his life. Let me turn that down real quick. But no, my wife is with him.
He's cool.
But yeah, that's probably fine. What was I talking about? I don't even remember.
Oh, you're just you know, traction going into the year, you know, like you
Right. Yeah, and then, you know, everything gets fucking sidelined and you have to in the moment figure it out. I mean, once I released that special, my goal this year was to record a new hour before the end of the year.
Yeah,
Because I was in such a writing place when I hit my special. I mean, I think for my special, I wrote like 15 minutes of it in the last month that I was developing for the special. So I kicked out an old 15 just to put in a new 15 that felt fresher and it was totally fleshed out. It felt ready. So I was in this real like groove of creativity. And then, you know, I'm at the Comedy Cellar March 15th performing and taping for Comedy Central. And we all get the text that the next day fucking New York is shutting down and it's over.
yeah,
You know, so boom, I'm out of performing. I can't develop all this material. I am still slowly piling it up, but I'm actually, since it's you, I'll tell you, but I'm filming a special next week.
nice.
So I have one last show for this year, and
Cool.
it's a secret show. And I decided it's going to be loose as shit. Not all the material is ready, but you know what? That's what this year is, man.
Yeah,
It's unfinished business. We got to figure it out all together.
no, exactly, man. It's I've been fun. It's like on my end, you know, I was covering, you know, going physically backstage and documenting, you know, musicians, comedians getting into actors and like getting all this traction. You know, even at the end of the year in 2019, I get a beautiful note, from the Adam Driver's agent saying you want to collaborate. I'm like, yeah,
Oh, nice.
2020 is gonna be awesome. Boom.
Yeah.
But however, it's been I've kind of adapted. Like this interview series has been super. I never expected it. It's over 150,000 views right now, which is cool.
That's great.
It's not a million, but it's like
Great.
averaging at least 10 to 11,000 people per, every 2 weeks, so it's cool.
Nice.
Which I've never really, I put most of my time, in the last few months of just doing this. And there's so many, so many artists I've talked to, and I probably have like another season almost built out for next year. It's just like, it's like in April it was crazy though. Everybody wanted to talk. Where it was just like the whole month every week I was doing at least 3 conversations. Yeah. I didn't even know these people, so I have to like digest their art in like a half a day or less. And I'm like, oh, what I say? I don't know them. Like, I love your work. I don't, it's like, but it's been like keeping my mind busy, and also getting it out there. And my voice, I never really imagined myself, communicating with all these different people. Like which was a good thing going on Zoom instead of on location where, our first interview where we're physically on location. I've reached people in LA, West Coast, like amazing legends in music and photography and fine art. And so it's spread, the net has spread through Zoom and this type of communication. And I feel like obviously I wouldn't have been able to reach these people without, physically traveling, and obviously without funding, I can't do that, so
right.
It's been, pandemic has been limiting it in a lot of ways, but also there's ways to adapt in creative ways
we got some guests on our podcast that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise, some people that kind of phoned in from LA or wherever they were. So, it is about finding the silver lining to everything that's going on. It's tough, man. One of the things that I've been trying to focus on as much as possible is that I'll probably never have this much concentrated, uninterrupted time alone with my son ever again in my life for this much of a span. I mean, I've been with him every single day. I've watched him develop. I've watched him grow. We've created this truly unbreakable bond that I know will serve us for the rest of our lives. And that to me is, I understand that 2020 was the worst year of a lot of people's lives. It was not the worst year of my life.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like, not even close.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, that is invaluable. Like unfortunately for me, my whole family is just spread out. Like my sister had a baby in August, a second baby. I have a niece now, a nephew and niece, a baby girl, and she's in Tennessee, and I couldn't be there. And my folks are, and most of my family is in Mass, and I couldn't travel, and
right.
So everything's been, for me, it's been like super separated, but it also like has allowed me to communicate more deeply and honestly to my family too, and connect deeper, and really understand the value of that connection, because you never know what will happen. And so you're like, let's talk for an hour or so too, and say things maybe I wouldn't have said prior to this. And so I've
the family thing has been the hardest. I don't know about you. Has that been the hardest for you? Because it's, my family has been through hell and back, so we've done a lot of work to kind of reestablish connections, outside of my father, but everybody else. But, and we really worked at it. And my sister had a baby in the middle of this shit, like in April, and that was a really scary situation for her and for our family, because there was a lot of unknowns, there was a lot of rules, and it was just, not even not ideal. It was terrifying. And we both saw the beginning of our parenting lives much differently because we wanted to do it together. We wanted to be more of a unit and a grouping with, you know, almost community parenting with our kids. And it's been instead in isolating, like 100% isolating. I haven't seen them in a few weeks. I'll be
Yeah.
able to see them, I think, tomorrow because we've quarantined and everybody's, you know, trying their best to be safe. But it's really it's tough, man. You know, it makes me really appreciate them and the next time that I'll be able to spend extended time with them.
Oh, exactly. It's like I you know, it's like I really want to just make it to see my folks, to, you know, travel to Mass and see my folks for the holidays, but it's like, you know, they're over a bit over 70 and I don't want to be selfish, so it's like I'm like I have to, you know, say,
Yeah.
well, I got to stay away because I don't want to, you know, be that selfish and you know, put them in harm, you know, say,
Right.
you know, maybe I did pick it up. I don't know. I went to the dentist the other day, so who knows, you know, or
Yeah.
so yeah, it's isolating. Yeah, it's weird time, and I feel bad for my nephew. He's 4 years old, where you know he's kind of grown up via just interacting with people like this, you know. And
Yeah.
my sister's keeping him out of school because Tennessee's kind of open, and they're awful in regulations and all that,
Sure.
you know.
Jesus
So,
will protect.
yeah.
I am protected because I am bathed in the blood of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of sound like Zach Galifianakis right there. But, yeah, so it's like, I don't know, like then you can have to think about, imagine the kids like in junior high or high school, like, or in this generation or this current generation of like growing up in pandemic or like trying to go to school. I can't imagine, you know, in the next, you know, 10 years how they're going to end up. But I mean,
no, I thought a lot about high school athletes, which I don't know if anybody's really thinking about that right now, because I know if this happened to me during my senior or junior year or any year really, but especially in a time where it's like really pressing to get recruited and you're trying to get, like, if you're interested in playing next level, it's like everything to you to get showcased as a senior or as a junior. And it's like, these kids just got fucking robbed of that. So some of these kids that may not have played pro, but they're good enough to play in a D3 school that their basketball could get them in, and they'll get a higher education by using hoops as a tool. It's like those kids are screwed. You know what I mean? And there's no way for them to kind of make up that ground, and it's depressing, man. That's a really sad part of it is you know, that I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about that, and I don't notice it being a topic of conversation. So I don't know if anybody else is.
I'm sure there are, but yeah, I haven't seen it in the mainstream. Like, you know, I haven't noticed it on ESPN, you know, like,
because that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids.
Oh yeah.
It's several per school in the entire country. You know,
that could be like a good, documentary piece, I guess, you know, and then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's even worse, and I'm speaking on it from a purely basketball perspective, because, you know, there's clubs for other stuff, but I'm less familiar with it. But it's like, oh, now high school basketball is being like 100% funneled into AAU. So all these fucking 11-button suit wearing fucking, you know, just crooks that give these kids Nikes and ruin their eligibility for a school, or like, you know, give them money for lunch and take a picture of them giving them money for lunch so that it's like a rule break that they have as leverage. Like, that stuff exists all the time. AAU is super filthy. It doesn't teach the proper sport. Like, you know, it's all about individualism and getting yours and all that bullshit. And it could crash American basketball.
Oh. See, I don't even know, understand. I didn't even know what's going on in that system. So, like,
not to mention they're just playing with no masks and shit. They're still like, dude, I mean, I like weirdly follow a lot of high school basketball players on social media. It's getting creepier each year. I'm getting up there in age. But, you know, I'm watching these kids and you see the gyms, they're fucking packed. You know, 6 people are wearing a mask below their nose and nobody gives a fuck. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I've seen like these, tidbits on Insta, like these underground fighting clubs and like boxing club or illegal boxing or fighting in the Bronx, and nobody's wearing any mask. Like, you know, the sheriffs had to like break it up. They, you know, dudes had like guns and
human cockfighting.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, and you know, and you know, those parties they break up in 400 people parties everywhere and in town,
Hasidic weddings or whatever. Yeah.
It's like, if we all just could, you know, we could have kind of maintained things, you know, and kind of quelled things if we kind of said, okay, let's button down in the first few months. But I don't know. But I mean, I think we hit like we really need interaction with other people, and you're seeing all these like subvertive kind of underground kind of gatherings, saying like screw the rules, screw the policies, and people are like saying, I don't care if it's facts, I don't believe it. And
right.
You know,
well, it's going to turn the country into a speakeasy. You know, that's more or less what happened with comedy this whole time, because New York has been operating at in completely illegal territory. You know, they're not allowed to have shows even outdoors. Like, it's not supposed to happen, but there's ways to skirt certain loopholes to where it's kind of legal. But even that, it's like, so we're skirting it. There's no safety, instead of actually just looking at the issue and then figuring out how to make it safe. So all of these, like all of the government jumping in or whatever, has been really haphazard and not well thought out, and hasn't even been refined over the months. You know what I mean? So it's not as if we're taking new measures each time more information comes in. Instead, it's other people shouting at people, calling them idiots. And if I was being called an idiot all the time, I'd just be like, yeah, all right, fuck off. You know, like I'm just no longer interested in hearing from you.
Yeah. So it brings up an interesting point now. It's like, I mean, we have what comedy it is, what it is right now, being in the stage. You know, say if we do, you know, if the vaccine works and we can get things under control, how will it be kind of, you know, next year, you know, a year and a half? Just more of a futuristic kind of outlook, I guess. Like, what do you see? Do you see people going back to venues, or comedians going back to the stage?
Yeah, well, comedians never left, to be honest. I mean, a lot of us have been on the road either way, you know, and say, if you could sell tickets, you're on the road. And a lot of people are just going to the places that we're talking about that don't necessarily care. I had to cancel a weekend in Florida, and I'd been looking forward to working this club for a really long time, but I have people to worry about, you know, so it's on my own individual responsibility to take proper precautions, because I don't trust a company or anybody else to do that for me. So, you know, I think, like I said, people are out there on the roofs, man. People are out there, even indoor places, socially distanced, all that stuff. It may look differently coming up. There may be more space in a comedy club, even though I don't see that, because I think most club owners are sociopaths that are looking to wring every cent they possibly can out of each show. But, you know, some places may spread their tables out a little more and try to figure out, you know, a less germy way of of doing basement humor. But I don't know. I'm of the mind that I think people are going to be starved for this stuff, because, like we said before, there is, you know, it's great to talk to each other and this is nice, but it feels like I'm playing a conversation video game more than I'm having a conversation.
Oh, totally. And I can imagine, like, you know, say like trying to do something online, comedy or stand-up wise, you know, it's totally different environment. You know, I feel like, you know, stand-up is derived from the feedback from the people in the audience, you know, and then you play off that, and the energy just builds and builds, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse. First of all, I mean, it's just a bomb regardless. You're going to bomb. There's no good. It's just, you know, it's on Zoom, that is. And, you know, you're at the mercy of everybody's Wi-Fi. So half the time you say a joke and somebody's like, and they're laughing, and you're like, I don't know if that was an immediate response to what I just said, or you just caught up to something 11 minutes ago.
That's true. You're like,
either way, you stepped on my momentum. So, you know, and on top of that, after you do poorly, you shut your computer and you're just in your house.
Yeah.
You know, before, dude, before, if I did badly on a show, I could kind of like walk it off and shake the failure off my back. And now I'm like marinating in my own stink in what used to be my safe space.
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh crap! I wish I
Yep.
drank again.
Yeah, exactly.
uh, uh, I think we're all gonna have like coming out of this a speech impediment because every time Zoom freezes, like
Yeah.
like we're just used to that now, and it's the weird language of Zoom, you know.
Right.
Anybody you notice that kind of has done interesting stuff recently throughout this time span? Other than yourself, of course.
Yeah, I mean, my podcast co-host Mike Feeney and Brendan Sagalow, they've been doing really great shit. They've been putting out a new sketch every single week.
Cool.
You know, we also started a Patreon together, so that was another thing that we did to diversify our money stream and how things come in. And that actually ended up getting us another opportunity. So it's all these things that, you know, Tim Dillon is another one. All the Patreon people. So comedians that are like early to podcast, they have a specific viewpoint that people gravitate to, or they're really, really fucking funny. They've already set the foundation. They've established this before the pandemic. And then out of nowhere, this happens. And it turns out that we were all geniuses because, you know, we pivoted before it was 100% necessary. And a lot of comics are like, I think I should start a podcast. And then they're tweeting like, should I start a podcast? And it's like, yeah, 100 million of them just started by the time you pressed fucking post.
Yeah.
Like nobody has time nor any interest in you know, caressing your self-esteem enough till you break down and, you know, create a podcast that everybody else is already doing.
Yeah, yeah. That's where I'm like, I don't know if I'm being redundant.
No, not at all, because you're doing it. But that's the thing, you're doing it. You would be redundant if you were asking should you, and if you were not like just jumping headfirst into it. You have a show, you have a specific viewpoint, you have a goal to accomplish. Those are already head and shoulders above where other people are at. But, you know, like even Sam Morril, he just released a pandemic special, so he did a full special on various roofs throughout New York City. It's a really interesting project, and
Cool.
it was, you know, really cool. Brendan Sagalow also filmed a special and it recorded an album on a rooftop. So comedians, you know, we're like the Jeff Goldblum line from Jurassic Park. We will find a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like it's like my methodology. It's just like if I have an idea, I'm just gonna do it, you know, and get it out there and see if it works. You know, test that out. You know, it's like, you know, I know so many people, you know, in the city who I just met were just so fake, or like had ideas but never acted, you know. And I was like,
of course, it's easy to have ideas.
Yeah,
it's really fucking easy for an idea to pop into your head, and it's very difficult to even start to execute it. So it's like, you know, everybody is like, oh, I was gonna do that, but I didn't. And it's like, yeah, you didn't. So we did.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? It's like, good for you that you thought of it, but you got to be a self-starter and you have to learn how to motivate. And comedians are the biggest I was gonna do that but never did people, which is why I think it's really important to actually just put your foot on the gas and start going. That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Have you besides besides the secret special, any like film projects, or if any other, you know, projects you're working on you can talk about? Or
yeah, so I mean, I got lucky during this. Like I said, the film led to some work. So I got hired as an actor for some True TV prank show. That'll be out, who knows when. You know, I'm lightly featured on it. So it was just good work. I received a check during the pandemic, which was great. And then that didn't lead. Something else led to, I just filmed this almost like round table discussion pilot with 4 other really great personalities. We got to, I don't know if I can actually give it up, but regardless, that's an On the Brink project that we just filmed, and that was another check. So it's all about me trying to figure out diverse ways to bring in the money. And I got 2 albums, I got the podcast, I got the Patreon, I got acting work, I got all these things and irons in the fire where, I'm just trying my very best to stay afloat during a, wildly uncertain financial time.
Well, with all that, how do you find like energy, and balance that with like family time too? I know you said that this has been the most focused time, focused time you can focus on your time spent with your son and family, but
Yeah.
seem like you've been still crazy busy. So how do you balance that?
I'm tired. I'm tired, man. That's it. I look a lot more aged since the last time you interviewed me. I'm very tired, but that's where I also have to give myself credit. Is there's a lot of times that I should be napping and restoring my energy, but instead my son goes down, I get to fucking work. So none of it takes away from my time with him or my focus towards him. My wife and I have a really good balance with that as well. And her business has taken a hit because she's a floral designer that relies on congregation of people as well. So both of us dopes need people to get under a roof together. So, we've both been lucky to have this time, but we've also then gotten job opportunities here and there and certain things that you got to piece together, and everything is a bit more sporadically put together and slapped together very quickly because of the nature of everything right now. So we're really good at communicating and supporting each other and finding a way for us to make our money and continue to feed our son.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's yeah. Basically, it's like adapt or die.
That's all it is,
Situation.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of like I I don't know. I like I'm just like zonk out. Where do you kind of future like what do you see down the road? Like what ideally other projects, or would you continue without when regulations and vaccines and everything kind of opens up again, ideal projects, I guess, where do you see your long-term goals? I guess like more film, more stand-up specials, I guess, like
I mean, you know me, man. We've talked about it. I'm a stand-up primarily and most importantly first. So that everything that I do outside of stand-up, be it podcast, be it acting, be it, blowing people on the 6 train, all of it is trying to funnel interest back to my stand-up career. So stand-up is always it. I want to, I'm not ready to die until I've released 10 hours. That's how I view things. I want 10 hours out, and outside of that, I want to create my own comedic shit. So my long-term goal after this is to find a way to be self-sustaining to the point where I don't need any industry, anything. These acting jobs have been great, but I don't want to have to do them if I don't want to. So I want to be able to, make my money on Patreon and or through touring or whatever, and be a little choosier about my projects because, I think my taste is best. So whatever I create for myself better suits me than anything that I could do for another company or project or whatever. So my end goal is like something similar to Andrew Schultz, where he has his own team. He has a camera person, he has an editor, he has a social media person, he has somebody to handle all of his technical and clerical affairs, and he can 100% concentrate on the creative. And that's where I want to get to. I want to be the shot caller where if I have an idea, we can execute it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I operate too. Just like I'll either create it myself or have, friends that will help me. And that's it. Like I don't want to, after working for people, I never want to do it again,
I'm just looking at the door. My son just put his face up and started smiling.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess like, I guess on the more of like, how do you continue developing your comedic language? I guess like process wise, like in my realm, it's more visual language and but I've kind of been studying arts and film and comedy as well. Recently because I have time, I'm like everything has their own unique language. So I'm kind of fascinated with like how I guess they would call it developing your own voice. How do you? So how you reach a point, but how do you continue to evolve that? I guess.
It's there's two ways that I'm approaching it. I don't know if it's correct. I think so, because in my opinion I haven't really lost a step, and
Yeah.
my opinion is often harsher than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But one, it's I have all this mic time, right? So I have all these podcasts, I have two of my own, I guest on all these podcasts. I'm constantly saying things in the moment that I think are funny, which is usually what I would do on stage.
Mm.
I'd write a premise, take it to stage, and forget what I had written, of course, and then fear would take over, and I'd often just pepper it, with jokes, or fail, either way. So all the mic time, I've been trying to be cognizant of what I'm saying and go back and re-listen to some of these podcasts and mine it for stage material. It's been difficult, but it's led to some things. And my second thing that I've been doing is I haven't stopped writing jokes this entire time. Not even for stand up for sure, but in terms of my Ellen series that I did. I mean, those are 4 videos that it's boom, 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 boom. Every line is a joke. Frank Rigatone, boom, 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 boom. Every single line is a joke. I mean, I did a 10-minute episode. I did a 15-minute episode where I would put those against a lot of stand-up specials. Every fucking line is a carefully thought out bit. And so that has actually, in my opinion, sharpened my ability to write jokes, and it's also opened me up perspective wise, because I'm writing for different people. I'm writing for Ellen DeGeneres, in giant quotes. I'm writing for Frank Rigatone. I'm writing for all these different characters that are kind of now opening my perspective and my ability to tackle a subject from multiple angles.
Your mind is constantly creating and structuring jokes, no matter different characters, and which is actually probably better for which will I imagine it would just take your level of on stage tenfold, I guess, because you kind of it's exercise. You train for basketball. You train, you shoot like Larry Bird. You gotta go back to Bird, Boston boy. But but yeah, it's it's like you have this goal. You're gonna do it no matter what, no matter the external conditions now. And it's like, how can I be better? And it's like, I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna put in work, adapt to new stuff, new material, new, for me, art and visuals. Like I've been painting a bunch, putting into galleries or open shows, and doing a lot of other photography, which I can do alone, where I don't need like subjects and models. And I'm part of communities here in Beacon of serious artisans, and I've connected. I've put in, I've put in my time for dedicating myself to art, and craft, and hours upon hours of studying, I feel like comedy is a necessary language that society will crave even more when things kind of get back to normal, if they ever do. But I feel like the ones that continue, and then we'll have this better, they'll be in a better position, of course, than ones that kind of like didn't do much,
And
but
and even not career wise, it's like there's a reason why I do this for a living, and there's a reason why I was pushed into this by my own self. I need it. I need to be moving, because this thought, all these thoughts would exist without the things I'm making. So imagine that all this insanity that I've put out is fucking banging around in my dumb head, and now imagine if I didn't make it, that's still in there. I mean, that's like a true nightmare. So for me, it's mental exercise. It's a douche. I'm brain douching all of these thoughts and getting them out as much as possible, because for my own health, I need to.
Yeah, man. Same here. It's like, that's why I've I've been doing a lot of writing as well. It's like I need to get it out in different channels. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well, you're doing a good job, man. I think you should be proud and continuing to push forward. I think that's all you could do.
thank you. It's like it's been cool though. April, I get all these letters from like AD and some notable people, signed comics from Ant-Man, you know,
Uh,
and it's been cool that I've been kind of drawn into Bob's Burgers through a
Hell yeah.
friend and of mine,
Nice.
and had these continuous conversations with these very successful, noble people that believe and been kind of my mentors throughout this year. Just these email conversations, and it's been like, you know, at times I've lost my. I'm like, yeah, this ain't where, you know, like I just got to do something else. But I'm like, then I'm encouraged by my partner, and then the words of just, you know, people I've really never met, but they've taken the time to talk to me,
Yeah.
and write insightful notes on it via email and personal notes, and we've kind of befriended. So I don't know. I do feel hopeful to do some cool shit soon with
I think
like
so. Yeah.
some amazingly creative people. And any, I guess, just to wrap up, any final words like on comedy, your work? I don't know.
I mean,
Whatever.
I think you're right to be hopeful.
Yeah.
I think that's the only perspective that helps. You know, I mean, you know, pragmatic plus hopeful is probably the best, but it doesn't help to be overly cynical. I think that doesn't lead to any breakthroughs. It leads to safety at best,
Yeah.
or just, you know, or just negativity, you know, at worst. So I think being hopeful while continuing to push forward is, what else can you ask for from a person,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Um, cool, man. I'll let you go 5 minutes early before the
Uh,
bell. But oh, thank you once again for your time.
of course, man. I
I do
appreciate you.
plan on kind of wrapping the year with this, just to kind of close it with your number. The physical interview was number one. You'll be
Nice.
the last of the year, kind of, and maybe I'll add some chopped up like quotes from the entire year of people. Um,
Sweet.
it's been cool though. I mean, once
Well, I'm
again,
first and last of 2020, guys, so it was my fault.
yeah, yeah. We'll start the year with you, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Why
so,
not?
like you said before, you're like, I'm always like the first to jump into the next bit.
Yeah.
So, we'll end with you, and anyways, enjoy the afternoon, and
You too, brother.
be well, and hopefully you know, stay well, and your family, you know, stays healthy and stuff. So can't
Yes, sir.
wait to see what you put out next, because you know it's gold. It's gold.
I
You know,
appreciate you, man.
cool.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Be
I'll
well.
talk to you soon, man.
Definitely, man. Take
All
care.
right. Peace.